Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Starting Your Immigration Journey in 2025, a guide to success in express entry, language testing, and credential evaluation. My name is Riley Cohen. I'm the CEO of CanadaVisa, and I'm excited to welcome you all today for this very special webinar. We have 4 experts with us today in the areas of immigration law, language testing, and credential evaluation. They've each put together a short presentation explaining their area of expertise, which together will cover a lot about Canadian immigration. This knowledge will be especially valuable to you as you start your immigration journey in 2025. After the presentations, we'll have ample time in the second half of this webinar to answer any follow-up questions you may have submitted prior to this webinar or submitted during the presentations. I'm going to give a short introduction to our speakers before we get started. From Prometric, we have Yvonne, who's the Manager of Business Development. And Yvonne supports the language assessment mandates of government, regulatory, and academic institutions. In the past, Yvonne served as an account director and manager of academic relations for Prometric's English language portfolio, and in various roles in edtech and experiential learning. A graduate of the Monk School of Global Affairs, he continues to consult on interdisciplinary research, specializing in citizenship, diaspora studies, and migration. From Prometric, we also have Aswathi, who's the senior social media lead of ELP products at Prometric. She designs key social content for CELPIP and CALE that supports immigrants in their journey to Canada. With 6 years of experience, she successfully leverages digital platforms to share stories and help connect communities. Thank you, Yvonne and Aswathi, for joining us today. We have Abhinav, who is a digital marketing head with WES. AJ has been an integral part of WES's digital marketing team for the past 5 years, contributing to strategies that enhance the organization's global impact in credential evaluation and international education. As a former WES customer who received his credential evaluation for IRCC, AJ brings a unique perspective to his role, combining personal experience with professional expertise. He holds a master's degree in management of technology from New York University and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Maharshi Dayanand University in India. Thanks a ton for joining, AJ. And finally, we have Olivia Cohen, who is an immigration attorney at Cohen Immigration Law. Her practice focuses on Canadian immigration through economic, business, and family pathways, including permanent residence through the express entry system. She is dedicated to providing thoughtful, strategic guidance to clients navigating complex immigration processes. As noted, we're going to start this webinar with a presentation from each of our guests. After the presentation, we'll have a question and answer period. We had many questions submitted prior to the webinar and have planned to answer as many as possible in the Q&A portion of this webinar. We encourage you to continue to ask questions in the chat throughout the presentation, and our team of moderators will add them to the question queue. Please remember the chat is public, so don't share any personal information in the chat. Don't share your phone number. Don't share your email. Don't share your WES reference number. These messages will be removed from the chat. And then finally, please note that the presentation slides and a recording of this webinar will be shared with you in an email tomorrow. So look out for that email. If there's a section of this webinar you want to review in more detail, or if you just want to rewatch the entire thing. And great. So with all that being said, once again, thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to hand it off to immigration attorney Olivia Cohen to start her portion of the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Riley, for the introduction. So, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Riley mentioned, my name is Olivia Cohen. I'm an immigration lawyer or attorney at Cohen Immigration Law. And today I specifically will go over pathways to Canadian permanent residence or PR. So with that, let's kick things off. There are many different types of ways to immigrate to Canada and obtain permanent residence, but there are 3 main categories. There are economic immigration pathways, family sponsorship pathways, and then humanitarian and compassionate pathways. In this presentation, we will focus on economic immigration. And there are two main economic immigration programs for foreign nationals that are looking to settle in Canada but outside Quebec: express entry and provincial nominee programs. We will focus mostly on express entry. So to get permanent residence through express entry, you need to follow four main steps. You have to qualify for express entry, create your profile in the express entry pool, receive an invitation to apply for permanent residence through express entry, and then finally, once you receive that invitation, go ahead and apply for permanent residence. It's important to note that simply qualifying or being eligible for express entry is not enough, as you are not guaranteed to receive that invitation at the third stage. Express entry is competitive, with more qualified candidates than available economic immigration spaces. And the government actually ranks candidates' profiles using something called the Comprehensive Ranking System, or CRS, to assign each candidate their score, and then invites the top ranking candidates to apply for permanent residence. Because of this, express entry is best suited for foreign nationals who have a high CRS score, qualify for one or more category-based draws, which we'll discuss more later on, or have a chance of receiving a nomination through an enhanced provincial nominee program. If you apply for permanent residence through express entry, you can also expect to benefit from expedited processing relative to other permanent residence pathways. Typically, your express entry permanent residence application will take about 6 months during processing. But before we get more into the express entry process, any foreign national seeking status in Canada, including PR, must be admissible to Canada, legally admissible. And any immediate family members you have must also be admissible. The ways you may be considered inadmissible include medical health issues, criminality issues, prior misrepresentation violations or other immigration violations, or security reasons. You and any family members applying will also need to meet the general applications for permanent residence. So you'll need to obtain your biometrics, including your photos and fingerprints. You'll need to obtain police certificates for any country that you've lived in for at least 6 months or more after the age of 18. And you'll also need to complete the immigration medical exam. Once you confirm that you are admissible to Canada, you can then explore qualifying for express entry. To qualify for express entry, you must meet the main eligibility requirements of at least one of the 3 federal express entry programs: the Canadian Experience Class, the Federal Skilled Worker Program, or the Federal Skilled Trades Program. If you meet the eligibility requirements for one of these programs and you are admissible, as we discussed, you can then go ahead and create your expression of interest for the program, or profile in the express entry pool. Once you create your profile, the express entry system will assign your profile a score using the comprehensive ranking system I mentioned before. The CRS ranks you and your spouse, if applicable, on factors such as age, education, language proficiency, and work experience. The government then holds regular draws inviting the highest scoring candidates to apply for permanent residence. And if you receive an ITA, or an invitation to apply through express entry, you will then have 60 days to respond with your complete application for PR. So for all economic immigration pathways to Canada, it is important to understand how the government classifies your work experience. The government classifies occupations using something called the National Occupation Classification, NOC, which assigns every occupational activity a unique 5-digit code. It is important to select the NOC code for any given work experience that you have based on your job duties and responsibilities, rather than just the job title. In addition, each NOC code has an associated tier level. short for training, education, experience, and responsibilities, which classifies the level of education and training required for your specific occupation. Broadly speaking, these are the tier definitions. So tier 0 occupations usually are management level. Tier 1 occupations usually require a university degree. Tier 2 occupations usually require a college diploma or at least 2 years of apprenticeship. And Tier 3 occupations usually require a college diploma, less than 2 years of apprenticeship, or at least 6 months of on-the-job training. And it is important to keep in mind that the tier definitions outline the level of education and training typically required to qualify for the occupation, but the education levels are not mandatory to select any given NOC. To qualify for express entry, you need at least 1 year of paid skilled work experience defined as tier levels 0 to 3. So your 1 year of skilled work experience needs to fall under tier 0 to 3. This is the minimum eligibility requirement, having that 1 year of paid skilled work experience, but your points will increase with additional years of skilled work experience. To find the NOC code for your work experience, you can use IRCC's official NOC tool, which we have linked in on this slide, and you'll receive after the presentation. You can then use the tool to keyword search and identify potential occupations that match your work experience. And it is important to keep in mind that as part of your permanent residence application, you will need to submit documentation to verify your work experience, such as reference or employment verification letters. So you should include only skilled work experience that you will be able to prove at the application stage. As mentioned, the federal government regularly holds draws for the express entry pool, inviting the top ranking candidates to apply for PR. There are different types of draws, broadly speaking: general draws, Canadian experience class draws, PNP draws, and category-based draws. Under general draws, all candidates with valid profiles are eligible. The government simply applies the top number of ranking candidate profiles. That said, it is important to note that the federal government has not held any general draws since April 2024. Instead, they have been prioritizing other targeted express entry draws. Under Canadian experience class draws, the government invites top-ranking candidates who qualify under CEC, and these are individuals who have at least 1 year of paid skilled Canadian work experience in the past 3 years and have the language skills required for their Canadian work experience. Under PNP draws, the government invites candidates who have received provincial nominations. And under category-based draws, the government invites top-ranking candidates who meet specific categories established by the immigration minister. Right now, categories include having high French language proficiency, or having work experience in in-demand fields, such as healthcare and social services, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, or education. It is important to note that to qualify for one of the category-based draws for work experience, you must hold at least 6 months of continuous full-time work experience or equivalent part-time experience in an eligible occupation within the past 3 years. Each express entry profile is assigned a CRS score, as we've discussed, between 0 and 1200. As you can see in the table, there are 3 main sections of the CRS: core human capital, skill transferability, and additional points. And each main section comes with a maximum score. Aside from the basic personal information that you will input in your profile, there are 3 main components you will need to complete in your online expression of interest to do so with accuracy. And so you will need to have language tests, you will need to have education credential assessments, and you will need to properly claim your work experience in order to have an accurate express entry profile. You will need to take your language tests from an approved IRCC testing provider, and it's important to remember that your tests are only valid for 2 years. for immigration purposes. You will need an education credential assessment for each foreign degree or diploma you wish to count towards your score. And these ECAs, education credential assessments, expire after 5 years. And they assess the Canadian equivalent of your foreign degree. And lastly, you will need to add your work experience with the correct NOC codes. And for immigration purposes, the last 10 years of your foreign work experience are relevant. So with all of this information, we welcome you to sign up for our app, CanadaVisa Plus. CanadaVisa Plus is designed to help foreign nationals navigate the express entry system to achieve their permanent residence goals. After you create your account and complete your profile, you will be able to see your eligibility for express entry programs, your CRS score with the breakdown of all of your points, the competitiveness of your express entry profile, and your potential eligibility for PNP streams that operate within the express entry system. You can then even modify your profile to explore different scenarios. And CV Plus also projects your eligibility and competitiveness into the future, so you can see how your profile will change over time. To get started, you can use the link we provide to fill out your profile and sign up for the app. So, lastly, I want to quickly touch on increasing your competitiveness. So there are different ways you can increase your competitiveness as an express entry candidate. You can increase your CRS score, you can become eligible for one or more category-based draws, or you can become eligible for a PNP. Today, we will focus on boosting your CRS score. So while you cannot control some factors, such as age or having siblings in Canada, you can boost your language skills, your education levels, and your work experience. Improving language scores in particular can significantly boost your CRS score, especially through what is called the skill transferability section. For example, if you achieve CLB 9 or Canadian Language Benchmark 9 or higher in all 4 language abilities, you can gain up to 50 additional points if you also have strong education qualifications, and another 50 points if you also have 3 or more years of foreign work experience. So that's an extra 100 points to your CRS score just by combining your high language scores with education and experience. So in terms of next steps, I encourage you all to sign up for CV Plus. You can create an account for free and start experimenting with different scenarios to gain an idea of your competitiveness as an express entry candidate. And for those who want more specific tailored guidance, you can take advantage of free consultations at Cohen Immigration Law, our law firm. If after the initial consultation, you want us to represent us on your permanent residence journey, we would be happy to discuss options and our services. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm assuming I can jump in here and just talk about a little bit about how the CLB levels translate to, or how language scores translate to CLB levels, and what this means for overall applications through the CRS system. Hi, everyone. As Riley kindly introduced us, my name is Ivan, and along with Ashwati, we'll give you a sense of how exam scores translate into Canadian language benchmark levels. We will also try to give you an idea of where you stand in terms of your language proficiency, or what are the tools that you can use to determine that, the importance of benchmarking your own level, building realistic prep timelines, and then choosing the proper support. And with that, we also hope to give you an understanding of why a high-stakes language exam like CELPIP is one of the best and most practical tools for newcomers to feel more confident and prepared for life in Canada. It's a journey, as we all know, and there are ways that we can help you get there. Before we dive into the CLB levels and prep materials, very briefly, there are 2 CELPIP formats. And CELPIP, by the way, stands for the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program. a mouthful, I know, but it's also important to know that it was specifically designed to align with the CLB levels that we will talk about a moment later, as well as what Olivia already mentioned in terms of one of the most pertinent ways of increasing your overall eligibility and CRS scores. CELPIP General is effectively a high-stakes language assessment for everyday language use in Canada and in the workforce. It's accepted by RCC as proof for English language proficiency for permanent residency applications. Last year, it was also accepted for post-graduation work permit applications. And for those of you who are looking to immigrate and work in a particular field, it is also widely accepted for various governing bodies, regulatory bodies, and associations that govern the practice of particular work-related fields, such as, let's say, if you wanted to be a real estate agent in British Columbia, you can use the same language assessments to both immigrate as well as practice your chosen profession. Now, CELPIP General LS only measures two components, the listening and the speaking, and is accepted for Canadian citizenship applications. What are the language benchmarks that Olivia mentioned a moment ago? Very briefly, this is a benchmarking framework designed by the Canadian government to ensure that it converts scores from the federally accepted language exams into the same equivalency so that they can be compared to each other, as well as they can be compared to various other streams within government-sponsored immigration, as well as, I'll show you in a moment, other ways that you can use the CLB scores and why they are important for your overall pathway to Canada. A lot of the times we only think of CLB levels as strictly aligned to immigration, and that's absolutely true. But I think it's also important to note that they are a national standard for planning curricula for language instruction in a variety of contexts, as well as it's a framework for referencing learning, teaching, and programming for adult ESL in Canada. And I want you to kind of think about this as we go through the next slides in terms of preparation resources, because for the broader community, apart from the CLB levels obviously being super critical for CRS scores, for the broader community, the CLBs contribute to clear and informed communication between the ESL community and other stakeholders and organizations, which means that they also provide information for labor market associations, sector councils, licensing bodies, employers who seek to understand how these language requirements for professions and trades should be referenced to the standard. And I think this is critically important because this is one way that you as newcomers will go effectively through your journey, not just applying, but also coming to Canada and becoming embedded in society. Most importantly, for the purposes of our discussion today, please know that CELPIP levels, as you can see on the left side of the screen, are completely aligned with CLB levels. So nothing is left to the imagination. In other words, using CELPIP as a language assessment for your application means that if you want to achieve that CELPIP CLB level 9 that Olivia talked about, that also means a CELPIP level 9 as well. Now, the best way to go about assessing where you are, even if you are a proficient or you think you're a proficient English language speaker, we always recommend to folks to benchmark their own language level. And the best way to go about it is to utilize what we call the CELPIP score comparison chart. This, in conjunction with what Ashwati is going to show you in a moment, allows you to understand the kinds of responses that other test takers have used for achieving the level, the CLB level that you desire. In other words, as you can see on the screen, you can utilize the comparison chart to drop down, figure out what kinds of responses have elicited a CLB 10, for instance. And if you really need a CLB 11 or 12, it's also a very helpful tool to understand what types of responses, what types of facility with language is going to get you there. With that, Ashwati is going to give us an overview of the pathways, that the minimum bare bones pathways we absolutely recommend for folks to take. And then I'll show up a little bit later to give you my kind of final admonitions about how to go about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Hi, everybody. My name is Ashwati, like Ivan introduced me and Raleigh introduced me earlier. My goal here is to help you get the most out of your self-prep journey. For a lot of our test takers have prepare through a self-prep method, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. So we've created a chart to guide you. It's a pretty simple roadmap to help you stay on track. So let's say that you've just found out about the CELPIP test, either through this webinar or through some other sources, and you are wondering, how do you start? So right away, I want to let you know that we have 2 free practice tests. So take the first one right away. That's what we encourage you to do. It's a great way to see where you stand and identify your strengths and weaknesses, with your listening and your speaking, writing, and reading. Take the first pre-practice test, find out, maybe you have an issue, maybe you need to update your listening skills, or maybe you need to update your speaking skills. Once you've completed the test and once you've figured out your strengths and weaknesses, you can go to the next step, which is updating your skills. So to support your prep, we offer a free starter of the CELPIP Accelerate program. I'll talk about the program in a little bit, but just for you to know, the introduction to the program is completely free with your test registration. And I would encourage you all to go through the starter pack and see if the program works for you. It has videos, quizzes, and practice questions. It has 5 hours of CELPIP General, 2.5 hours for CELPIP General LS, which is a citizenship test, but I think we will focus on the immigration test for now. And you can purchase the Accelerate that works for you. So let's say that in your first practice test, you found out that you need to improve your listening skills. You can purchase the listening and the speaking Accelerate. Or you need to, you need more help with reading. You can purchase the reading and the writing Accelerate. Another thing to add, that it's currently on sale until Friday, 4:30 p.m. PT. So this is a great opportunity for you to purchase our prep. Don't go now. It's available till Friday. But we do have all the prep is available at 50% off until Friday. So this is a great opportunity for you. But yeah, use the Accelerate, update your skills, find out what's working, what's not working. And if you need more one-on-one support, and if you think that you really need to be guided by an expert, we also have our YouTube series. We have a lot of great content here, but the one that I wanted to focus more on is our CELPIP Live session on YouTube, which is led by our CELPIP expert, Brandy. Some of you here may already be familiar with Brandy. It's an interactive session. We go every second Thursday of the month, and a lot of the content here is designed based on our audience's feedback. So lately, we've been doing a lot of reading content because we've heard from our audiences that they need support with reading. So definitely make use of our YouTube session. We also have a lot of webinars on our website, and those are on different timelines. We have Eastern Standard Time, Indian Standard Time, Philippine Standard Time, and Brazil Standard Time. So those are a little bit different from our YouTube sessions in that you cannot. It's like a webinar, much like this. Your interaction with our expert would be on chat, but it is a group session, and if that works out for you, definitely make use of those. Once you've kind of updated your skills, though, you've done your YouTube sessions, you've purchased our prep products and you've kind of developed your skills, then I would encourage you to go back and try our second free practice test. Then you'll be able to assess if you've improved your skills, how much you've improved it by, and if you need more support. We, of course, have a lot more practice tests for you to purchase. On our website, it comes in a bundle form, so you can buy like 11 practice test sets at a time. Again, great time to purchase by Friday this week. And yeah, that should ideally give you a jumping off point. You can download this chart. It's available on our website. And once you feel much more prepared, you can take your test. We, of course, encourage everybody to take their test. Keep the preparation time at least 2 months. So take your test after 2 months of registration, so you get enough practice. That's it for my section. I will give it back to Yvonne, but I really hope this helps you start your self-prep journey.
Thank you so much, Ashwati. I won't hold you folks long. What I wanted to just reinforce once again is, well, a couple of things. Number one, we hope that this gives folks an idea that we encourage you to never go and write a test twice. Some people do this. Sometimes they would go and register for a test, pay the fee, be not precisely satisfied with their CLB level, and then they go and write it again. You don't have to do this. The reason why we've put all of this together is so that you understand the amount of prep, hopefully not overwhelming in a way, but the prep is there. And we encourage folks to take, as Ashwati outlined, a practice test first, avail themselves of all of the resources that are out there, including the Path to Success chart, as well as the interactive webinars. Do the self-assessment again, and only then step up to the proverbial plate and take the exam. One of the things that I personally find incredibly invigorating here is that there is a veritable community of learners who have gone before you. A lot of the information that we've put together, as well as the CELPIP live sessions and the podcast that we're seeing on the screen here, a lot of the information has already been taken from many thousands of learners that have gone before you. So by attending these sessions, we hope that you emerge with the notion that there is a community of people who are here to support you. And a lot of the resources have already been created on the basis of those experiences, including taking into account the vicissitudes of taking a language exam and how difficult it may be, and the various demographics and pathways that people use to get to Canada. I leave you with this. Listen to the podcasts, even as you're not preparing necessarily or thinking that you're going through a preparation process, because the reason why we showed you the CLB levels in the beginning and how they translate not just to your increased CRS scores, but also to your overall language proficiency, which in turn imbues everything that you do as a newcomer in Canada with greater meaning and greater support. We're certainly here to help along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. That was really great. And thank you, Riley and Olivia and Ashwati, for all the presentation here. As you guys were speaking about the English test, I was thinking about my time when I was applying for Canadian immigration, and I had to actually go through the test twice myself to get the best score in order to attend the CRS score that I was looking for. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I do absolutely encourage everyone to take the free test. They are really helpful. Hi, everyone. So I am here from World Education Services. My name is Abhinav Jana. I'm the head of digital marketing here with WES. We have done a couple of webinars prior to this about explaining about the credential evaluation. We learned so many different processes that are involved when you are planning to immigrate to Canada, or you are in Canada and trying to work through your application towards your permanent residency. So I originally come from India. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from India, and then I moved to US to pursue my master's from NYU. While I was doing that process, something that came across was credential evaluation. So what is credential evaluation and why do we need it? That was the question that I had at that point of time, which we'll cover in the following slides here. But then I would like to highlight, I did apply for my Canadian permanent residency. And during that process, along with everything that was presented so far, I also had to go through an ECA, which is Education Credential Assessment, for my application to apply for permanent residency in Canada. So let me take a step back and talk a little bit about WES. So World Education Services was founded in 1974. We are a nonprofit social enterprise, and we support the educational, economic, and social inclusion of immigrants, refugees, and international students like myself. So WES has been in the business for a little over 50 years, and we have basically evaluated credentials from all around the world. So what we mean by that is basically when you move to a new country, you would want to be able to use your education, experience, and skills that you have gained from your home country. So let's dive a little bit more into that and talk about it in details. So what is a credential evaluation? So a credential evaluation is a report that compares your home country education and standardizes it to Canadian standards. It helps the employer, the government, the immigration body, the educational institution, the licensing board better understand your educational background. Let me put it in a different perspective. So when I was applying for my ECA, I had a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from India, from Maharishi Dayanand University, as mentioned by Riley earlier. While I was applying to Canada, the standardization explains that my 4 years of mechanical engineering degree is equivalent to 4 years in Canada. Now, why is that important? So I'm going to break it down into 2 steps. So our credential evaluation process has 2 steps in it. The first one is verification, where what we do is we verify that the degree that you have received is valid and the university that you have received your degree from is recognized by your home country government of your home country. So in my case, the first verification would be, yes, the Indian government recognizes my university, and then it's a grade A, grade B, grade C, depending on which country, what policy is it recognized by the education government of India or not? The second step to it is the equivalency, which is a 4 years of bachelor's degree is equivalent to 4 years in Canada. In certain cases, especially I'm focusing towards the Indian audience in the webinar today, there are certain 3 years degree which could also be equivalent to 4 years degree, depending on the grade of the school and a couple of other factors involved in it. Now, where can we use our credential evaluation? So there are specifically 4 ways that you can target using your credential evaluation report. The first one is education. So let's say you're moving to Canada for higher education. There are a lot of universities which might require a credential evaluation report, which is to understand your home country education, to be able to help and support in terms of your application process for that university. The second one is immigration. We're going to talk in depth about it in the next slide. And then employment and licensing board. So these are the 4 industries and the 4 sort of use cases of where you can utilize a credential evaluation report from WES. So technically, the WES report comes in 3 basic types. The first one is D by D, which is document by document. And it clearly itself explains that we evaluate your documents that you're submitting and sort of do the equivalency in terms of what does your coursework or your degree that you have achieved is equivalent to in Canada. The second one is a little bit more specific, which is course by course. In most cases, when you're going for higher education or you're applying for any of very specific transfer credit to a university in Canada, you might require a course by course, which specifically mentions a little bit more deeper understanding of the courses that you have studied in the degree that you received from your home country. The third one is the most important one, which is ECA, which is Evaluation for Immigration. So WES, World Education Services, is designated by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, which is IRCC, to provide ECA. So ECA is basically used to evaluate degrees and diplomas earned outside of Canada. And as mentioned in some of the previous discussions, that ECA is also part of where it can help you improve your CRS score. Now, there are different aspects. I think Olivia covered those, CEC, PNP. In those cases, sometimes they might require ECA, might not require ECA. But however, if you want to claim points for your foreign education and potentially improve your CRS score, definitely do your research, but an ECA will support that need. And for example, for my case, when I was applying for my permanent residency, I had to get an ECA to support my application. Now, let's talk about the process that involves. So our process is very quick in terms of the application process. So when you go to our website, you click on Get an Evaluation, you select Canada, you select your purpose, which could be immigration, which is the ECA, or could be higher education or a standard application for if you require for jobs. In case of ECA, once you submit your application, you provide us very specific details about like such name, date of birth, the university that you have studied, and then the purpose that you're applying for. Once you submit your application, you receive a list of documents that you can upload from your end, as well as instructions to be able to send documents to us through your university. So for instance, in my case, I sent my documents from Maharishi Dayanand University in India directly to WES. And the reason behind this is it helps WES validate and do the first part of the evaluation, which is verification, that we are receiving these documents directly from the university. We have digital partnership now with most of the universities out there. So when you submit your application and you receive the instruction, be careful to read all the instructions provided, because we might already have a digital partnership with your university where they can send us your documents directly digitally. Once we receive the document, we start the verification and the evaluation process, and we send the evaluation report directly digitally to IRCC or to the university or employer that you're using or applying for. One thing I want to highlight here, I'm going to go back to the previous slide just to talk about it quickly. ECA, which is the Education Credential Assessment for the Immigration in Canada, it expires in 5 years because that's kind of the contract we have with IRCC. But the other two, which is D by D and C by C, they never expire. And you can always come back and send it to different purpose. So for example, let's say you did your document by document for an employment, and then you decided that you want to go pursue higher studies, you can always come back, you can upgrade to C by C and then send it to the university that you're applying. The same applies for ECA as well. So you can always come back and you can upgrade your ECA to C by C or D by D, depending on the requirement. And then you can send it back to the university or to the employer that you are planning to apply for. One other thing I want to highlight is we do have something called ICAP, which with a little bit of additional charges, we will keep your transcript forever, and then you can always come back and send it to any of the universities. So we'll keep your verified transcript stored with us. We also offer a digital badge, which you can display on your social media like LinkedIn, or also on a digital or a physical resume if you need to share it with employers in Canada. The one thing definitely I want to highlight here is, since we have been here for over 50 years, we have helped millions of individuals sort of learn, work, and thrive in new places. We work with thousands of universities, institutions, licensing boards, and employers who trust and accept our evaluation report. We have staff speaking over more than 60 languages, and we have expertise in evaluating credentials from every country around the world. We do understand there are sometimes some challenges in sort of retrieving some of the information that you need to share with us, but we do have some clear instructions and process once you submit the application, which should be able to help you sort of send us all the requirements that we need to complete your evaluation. Lastly, I just want to highlight, if you guys have your phone in hand, feel free to scan this QR code. This should take you to our newsletter subscription page. And we do share a lot of information about credential evaluation and other processes as we come up with the changes and policies and everything. And that's all from my end. Thank you so much. And we'll stay for answering some questions. Over to you, Riley.
Thank you so much, AJ and Yvonne, Aswathi, and Olivia. Huge thank you for the comprehensive presentation that you guys contributed today. So yeah, just want to say thank you. We're going to move on to the question and answer portion of this webinar, and we've only slotted our times until 12, so we might go a bit over, but for any of the presenters or anyone in the audience that needs to drop off exactly at 12, that's totally okay. And for people in the audience, you'll get a recording of this webinar tomorrow by email. So the portion after 12 will also be recorded and available for you to review. Quick reminder as we go through these questions, and we're going to go through as many as possible in this short period of time. Don't share any personal information in the chat. So please don't share your phone number, your email, personal details, your WES reference number, other numbers. The chat is public. We just want to keep it clean and protect you. Great. So without further ado, we'll move on to the question and answer portion. Here's a question we got prior to the webinar from Zakotade, who asked, what is the age limit to apply for express entry? And I'll pass that off to Olivia.
Perfect. Hi. Well, hello again. So to answer this question briefly, there is no age limit to apply for express or enter a profile into the express entry pool. That said, you do start losing points for age as of 30 and will not gain any points for age if you are 45 years or more in terms of your CRS score. So again, no age limit per se, but it does become much harder to have a high CRS score, over the age of 30, and even harder if you are 45 years or more, and your other qualifications or elements of your score will need to compensate.
Great, thanks, Leah. We also got a question prior to the webinar from Durley. This is a language testing question. And Durley asked, do you have any tips for improving my written English? So maybe I can pass it to Yvonne or Aswathi.
I will take a stab at this first, but I'm sure that Aswathi would probably have something to add. I will always refer folks to this notion of the CLB levels, meaning an authentic increase in your language proficiency for any of the pillars of language, including writing. So in other words, the authentic increase of proficiency is the thing that we want to look for, not necessarily the exam part of it. Although, and that's the second part of my answer, if you avail yourself of the test, of the practice test, you also get a real sense of what the format of the writing section looks like, which goes a long way in terms of starting to prepare. So, and perhaps Aswathi, if you want to give more color from your perspective, that might be useful as well.
Yeah, the practice test is a great way to, as I already mentioned, is a great way to understand where you stand in terms of, as it relates to this level, CELPIP and CLB level, and make sure that you target your practice accordingly. I have two answers for you. One is boring, one is interesting. The boring one is practice. There's really no other way to improve your skills other than practice. But the more interesting way to do that is to use the tools available for you. As a language test, as a representative of a language test company, I would say that you would expect me to generally discourage you to use ChatGPT. And yes, I do, but use it to practice. It's a great way to ask questions. Get like a practice question for you, write it down, send it back, ask it how ways to improve, use it to develop your skills. And that would give you some interest because, in general, if you're immigrating as a working person, you don't have the time. So use ChatGPT to get questions for yourself, prepare, and then use our practice test to see if you've leveled up. I think that would be a great way to improve your writing skills.
Great, thanks. We had a question prior from Usama who asked about WES. What documents are required to get my academic credentials evaluated by WES? I'll pass it off to AJ.
Yeah, so that would depend on which country you're applying for and what education you are getting evaluated. In certain cases, you might be getting your bachelor's degree, your high school, or your master's degree. So depending on that, the requirements will change. But what I'm going to do is that to make it easier, I'm going to drop a link here in the chat for everyone, which with some very basic information, you should be able to receive an estimate idea of the documents that you will need based on your school, degree, and university. I'm just going to drop that link in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, AJ. Olivia, we got a question in chat from Morgan, who asked, should we be completing the ECA and language test prior to applying for express entry, or can we begin our application and add these on later?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once you receive your invitation to apply, if you receive it, you only have 60 days to submit your complete permanent residence application. And because of that, and in addition to the fact that you want your CRS score to be as accurate as possible, it is really recommended to have your education credentials and your language test results ready to go and already have them before you even submit your express entry profile into the pool.
Great, thanks, Olivia. Kimberly asked in chat about language testing and asked, is language testing required for native English speakers? Yeah, I'll pass it off to Yvonne.
Sure. Thank you. The short answer to that is yes. And the reason we get this question a lot, and it's a very valid question. And the short answer to it is yes. And the reason why it's a yes is because the government needs, again, utilizing the CLB levels, the government needs a pertinent benchmark for folks entering the country. So they just need to ensure that there is a measurement that effectively authentically represents language facility. So therefore, folks, they don't necessarily have to prep, but they absolutely have to write the exam in order to ensure that the government has visibility vis-a-vis the language facility that they're coming with.
Great, thanks. AJ, Urzi asked in chat about whether WES does ECAs for skilled trades and those kinds of certificates. I was wondering if you could give some insight into that.
Yes, so we currently do not, but we are in process of developing something around that. So probably in potential future, but currently we do not evaluate skills for ECA.
Great, thanks. Great, we had a question here that came in prior to the webinar, and this question will be for Olivia. Saba asked prior to the webinar, can I do this process entirely online? And by process, they mean the submitting an express entry profile.
Yeah, so the great part about the express entry process and even the permanent residence process is that the portals are online. You upload your documents online when it comes to the permanent residence application, when it comes to creating your express entry profile. It is also online. So yes, you can do the express entry process entirely online. And then in terms of obtaining your language tests and education credential assessments, I believe those are online as well.
Great, thanks. So we got a question in chat from Morgan who asked, does every family member need to create a separate profile or just the person who's the principal applicant? How does that work?
Yeah, so I would recommend on using CanadaVisa Plus to see what your eligibility or score would be and likelihood to receive an invitation to apply versus your spouse. But typically, one applicant is going to have a higher chance of receiving an invitation than the other, or one family member. And so the principal applicant would enter the pool, and your spouse would be able to add points to your profile, but there's only one express entry profile. However, if, for example, your spouse has a lower score, but they may qualify for a category-based draw, like having French language skills or having one of the targeted occupations, then it could be worthwhile to submit two completely separate profiles into the express entry pool in order to see, if one of you will get selected.
Great, thanks, Livia. On the topic of online applications, we got a question in chat about the CELPIP exam and whether it's in person or online. Actually, a few people asked this question. Maybe someone on the Prometric team can help answer that.
Yeah, I can take that because it's a very short answer, and the answer is no. Unfortunately, we get this question a lot as well, and we don't have an option to take the CELPIP test online. You have to go to a test center in your country or any other location to take it.
Great, thanks.
And it's important. Sorry, right. It is also just to give a bit more color. It's also important to note that that is also a requirement by the government because of security reasons. So it's important that these are taken at a test center where folks control the environment in which it is taken.
Right. And as a follow-up to that, is the test a written test or is it on a computer?
It's on a computer. We don't have written tests. It'll be on a computer inside a test center, but you will be given a note paper and a pen if you want to write down your notes.
Great, thanks. Got a question here prior to the webinar about the kind of work experience, Olivia, that counts towards your express entry profile. So Rita asked, does foreign work experience count? What if it was unpaid or voluntary work? Does that count in the evaluation process for express entry?
Yeah, so as I mentioned during my part of the presentation, we're looking at, or the government is looking at, the past 10 years of work experience, and again, focusing on skilled work experience. That work experience also needs to be paid. And so whether it's in Canada or it's foreign work experience, it needs to be paid. And your Canadian experience counts, your foreign experience counts. And then another thing to keep in mind is that there are additional qualifications. For example, if you were studying in Canada, your work experience in Canada while you were studying does not count. But for example, your foreign work experience while you were studying at a university abroad would count. So it can get a little bit complicated in understanding exactly what elements of your work experience count towards your CRS score. And we're always happy to discuss that if you do decide to do a consultation and discuss your specific situation further with our law firm.
Great, thanks, Livia. AJ, question for you. Well, a couple questions here. Mohammed asked prior to the webinar, how long does the credential evaluation process usually take?
It completely depends on when we receive your documentation and we're able to verify them. So once you submit your application, it's very important to follow the instructions that I shared with you to send us all your documents and everything that we require. Usually it takes us 2 to 3 weeks, but then again, it will depend on case by case unless we are able to verify and approve all the documents that we receive from you. So yeah, you have to sort of make sure that you're reading the instructions correctly and able to send us all the documents that we need to potentially do your evaluation.
Great, thanks, AJ. And a quick follow-up that we're getting in chat a lot from Elizabeth, who's asking whether their legal degree as a practitioner in Nigeria can be evaluated by WES. Would that be a kind of degree, a law school degree that WES can evaluate?
Yes, we do evaluate every kind of degree. I'm not pretty much sure of what the specifics are, but If you wanna, I'm gonna share another link here, which is called a degree equivalency tool, which is a free tool for you to use in order to look into what kind of evaluation you could receive for the degree you have received. So I'm going to drop that link here. Feel free to use that. That should give you a pretty solid idea of what your equivalency is.
Great, thanks. A question for you, Olivia, that a lot of people are asking. I see a few questions here in the same vein, which are, do you need a job offer to apply for Express Entry?
So the short answer is no. And in fact, the government recently removed points for arranged employment through the Express Entry system. And so whereas in the past you would gain additional points purely for having a job offer supported by something called the Labor Market Impact Assessment, you can no longer get those additional points for your job offer. And so having a job offer will not necessarily help you in your Express Entry journey. That said, gaining Canadian work experience does. And so if that job offer comes with, the ability to come to Canada and work on a work permit, then that would indeed boost your chances.
Great, thanks. We had a question just come up in chat now about whether their spouse needs evaluations as well as the principal applicant. And just to make it clear, I think I can answer this one quickly, Joshua. Your spouse's credentials do count towards your CRS score. So if you want to potentially maximize your points, getting credentials, whether it be an ECA or language test for your spouse, can help improve your CRS score. Great. Question that we got for the Prometric team here. And the question's around what you guys think the most effective tricks or tips are on reading to increase, I guess, your odds of success.
The one thing that I always refer folks to doing as a bare minimum is going to one of the Reading Pro webinars and understanding the reason why this is important, and the reason why it's important to attend YouTube Lives, for instance, that we offer, is so that folks can hear from other test takers that have gone before them and understand where some of the problem areas have been. We answer those questions in real time, and that's a super helpful way to, we keep saying, get a benchmark, but then begin practicing. And once you do that, then obviously, as Ashwati mentioned earlier, practice, practice, practice. There is no substitute for that.